Israeli protests over high cost of living. More than 250,000 people have joined protests in Israel demanding government action to address the soaring cost of living. The biggest demonstration was in Tel Aviv, where the city came to a standstill at the end of the Jewish Sabbath, when 200,000 took the streets to call for cheaper housing and basic goods. There were also protests in Jerusalem and other towns and cities across the country. The mass protests are some of the biggest in history of the Jewish state, where there is growing anger among the middle classes that life is becoming unaffordable. There has been nothing like this for decades, said Barak Oren, a protest leader. It's a revolution. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, under pressure to change economic policies, has promised to establish a special ministerial committee to address the issue. The demonstrators began 3 weeks ago when a group of protesters pitched tents in the center of Tel Aviv to protest against the high cost of housing. Since then, the protesters have escalated, with the demand for economic change eclipsing the stalled peace process on the political agenda. Israel's economy has continued to grow at around 4% a year despite the global recession, but many in the middle class believe they are not feeling the benefits, with high taxes and soaring costs for food and basic goods. The government has promised to free up state-owned land to build more low-cost housing, but protesters are demanding a complete rethink of the country's free market policies. We demand social justice. Read one of the banners carried by marchers in Tel Aviv.
More and more we see the people all over the world taking to the streets to demand fair treatment and change from their governments. As economic conditions continue to worsen and governments around the world face budget challenges and shortfalls, causing them to cut programs and raise taxes, we will see more people in the streets protesting. It is very likely we will begin to see similar protests in the U.S. soon, after the government starts putting into effect its austerity measures, which we call spending cuts. Chances are we will not see the cuts or the protesting take place until after the 2012 presidential election. Because as we know, politicians' first order of business is always to first secure their place in office. In the event U.S. citizens do take to the streets to make their voices heard, let's pray that it's non-violent like the one in Israel. Although, as we know, even the protests that start out organized and non-violent can easily get dangerously out of control.